Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing to take a look at next week's slate. And we got a very intriguing matchup between two SEC teams as the Missouri Tigers head on the road to play the Kentucky Wildcats. And I'll start with this. If you were at a fall Saturday wedding, you were out at a party, and you didn't get a chance to get eyeballs on this game, and you just checked the box score, you could maybe come away with the idea that, oh yeah, Missouri and Kentucky, two teams that were undefeated heading into Saturday, were not legit contenders in the SEC. I'll say this, you'd be completely wrong with that narrative. Now, looking at Kentucky, that game just kind of got away from them in the first quarter. They were moving the football pretty decently, and then they just kind of got forced to do stuff that they weren't very comfortable with because they got down early so much. And then the Missouri Tigers, this was a team that had multiple chances to win that football game. A couple plays in that game go the Tigers' way. And you're talking about Missouri being undefeated, top 15 ranked team. College football is a wild sport. I think both of these teams are really quality teams in the SEC. I'm really excited for this game. You're going to learn a lot about both of these programs. Now, before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support you guys have shown for all of these game breakdowns truly has been phenomenal. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown the boys. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate y'all. Would love to hear from you guys too. Picks, predictions, keys to the game, players to watch. I love talking ball with you guys in the comment section. By far the best part about doing this. Appreciate you guys. And let's get into this. And I want to start with this Missouri offense because I still think this is one of the most high-powered, explosive offenses that you're going to see in the SEC. And it starts with the quarterback. And I know 2 interceptions on the box score. One was bad. The other was kind of trying to force something in late. How many quarterbacks are you taking over Brady Cook in the SEC? And I got to raise my hand and say, I'm guilty of kind of undervaluing Brady Cook heading into the season. I thought he was a solid SEC quarterback. He's clearly taken that step. You take a look at the numbers from yesterday, 411 yards passing. They were moving the football up and down on that LSU team. I think the bigger story of this Missouri offense, though, is Luther Burden, the best wide receiver in the SEC. I feel pretty comfortable saying that might even be the best wide receiver in the whole entire country. And that offense runs through Luther Burden, the multitude of different ways that he can hurt an offense or defense, excuse me. It's absolutely massive. Yards after the catch, elite at that. Pushing the ball and tracking the ball down vertically, really, really good at that. And then what's nice to see, especially from that last game against LSU, is teams are going to try to take away Luther Burden. Do you have other wide receivers that can step up? I thought Mookie Cooper, Theo Weiss did a really nice job kind of playing that complementary role. There's not many ways that you can stop this Missouri offense, especially when they're running the football like they did against LSU too. Cody Schrader over 100 yards against an LSU front seven that I get we have concerns about LSU in the back end, but that's a pretty solid front seven that Missouri was able to find some traction with running the football. My takeaway from this Missouri team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is I still love this offense. It's hitting the explosive play at a very high rate. If you're a Missouri fan, I get it. It was a heartbreaking loss against LSU at home. It felt like a spot that if you could really pull that game out and watch out for the Tigers, it was a loss. I'm still watching out for the Missouri Tigers. Now, looking at how this Kentucky defense can stop Missouri, my biggest concern is Kentucky's weakest spot is in the back end. The secondary, Mark Stoops even voiced it in the offseason. Probably the biggest concern on this defense is in that secondary room. They've given up a 67% completion percentage. Carson Beck obviously had a phenomenal game against this Kentucky back end. That's probably the biggest question in this game is, can Kentucky contain Luther Burden, contain Brady Cook throwing the ball and pushing the ball down the field? The biggest story, because when you look at Kentucky in the front seven, Trevin Wallace, Deion Walker, I mean, this is a really, really good front seven, only allowing 3 yards per carry. If Missouri wants to move the football, I think they move the football through the air, and that's kind of the story of that matchup. Now, looking at the flip side, Kentucky's offense, they want to run the football. Ray Davis, possibly the best running back in the SEC, extremely impressive against Georgia. And I get the numbers on the box score weren't elite, but making people miss. I thought that Kentucky offensive line looked really good too when they were forced to kind of abandon the run game when you went down 21-0. That's when this Kentucky offense really had some problems. And my biggest concern with Kentucky, Devin Leary just has not been great. Like some of the throws that he misses throughout a duration of a game, those plays are inexcusable. I mean, he had, I believe it was Tavion Robinson on a long drag route to the boundary, probably would have gone for 40 yards and just overthrows him, doesn't even give him a chance at the football. Those are kind of throws that if you want to go on the road and beat Georgia or hang close with Georgia, you got to make those throws. Devin Leary, far too often in this season, has missed those throws. A 54% completion percentage has just, quite frankly, not been good enough. And the most frustrating part about it is I think the rest of this Kentucky offense is playing some really good football, right? Ray Davis running the rock extremely well. This offensive line has taken massive steps from where it was last year. You have three dynamic wide receivers in Tavion Robinson, Barian Brown, Dane Key. This offense can be good. Devin Leary needs to play better. And Mark Stoops, a guy that normally does not call out individual performances, even said in the presser after the game, Devin Leary has to be better. Like, if you want to win these football games in the SEC, extremely hard conference to win these football games, you have to have a quarterback that's making those kind of throws. And Devin Leary, quite frankly, just didn't make those throws to give Kentucky a chance. 10 of 26? That is by far not going to cut it. When you look at the Florida game 2 weeks ago, is 9 of 20? So in SEC play, Devin Leary just has not been close to good enough for Kentucky to consistently win games in the SEC. Now, looking at Missouri's defense, a really rough performance against LSU. Now, I would caveat that with I'm not selling my stock on this Missouri defense. I think this LSU offense is, I mean, talk about Missouri potentially having the best offense in the country. I think LSU probably has the best offense in that SEC. You look at what Jaden Daniels can do, whether he's hurting you with his legs, whether he's hurting you through the air. It's a really hard offense to stop with all the dynamic playmakers in ways they can hurt a defense. What I'm most concerned about heading into this game is I still like the secondary. And again, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Jaden Daniels, they're going to get theirs. What I was most disappointed with Missouri on the defensive side of the ball against LSU was how well LSU was able to run the football. And I get Jaden Daniels making some plays with his feet, but just designed runs to Logan Diggs. He was eating Missouri up, and it's hard to win a football game when your defense can't stop the run. 274 yards rushing for the LSU Tigers. Just not a good recipe for getting this done. Now, on the back end, I still like them. I mean, Chris Abrams-Drains, I know they got a little nicked up, but still some really quality guys in the back end that I don't really think Kentucky will be able to attack. The story of this is, can Kentucky establish that run against the Missouri defense that did just give up 274 yards to LSU? Now, looking at the pick here, Missouri coming in as 2.5-point underdogs on the road in Lexington. I think it comes down to one simple thing for me. I like both of these teams. I think these are two of the teams that are some of the more complete teams in the SEC on both sides of the football. But there's one thing that, in my mind, when I'm looking at this game, separates them, and that's the quarterback play. I trust Brady Cook a hell of a lot more than I trust Devin Leary right now, and for that reason, I'm going to go with the Missouri Tigers to cover that number. I'll pick them to outright win this game because I just trust Brady Cook a little bit more than I do Devin Leary. Now, if the Kentucky wants to win this game, it's going to be on the back of that offensive line and Ray Davis. And if they can get that run going, this is going to be a good game. But Missouri and Luther Burden, they're going to get their points. Kentucky's going to have to be able to keep up, keep the football out of Brady Cook and Luther Burden's hands, establishing that run. If they can do that, this is going to be a very fun game, and Kentucky is going to certainly have a chance to win. But if they can't run the football and you're relying on Brady Cook and Devin Leary and who's going to be better and who's going to perform better, give me Brady Cook and the Missouri Tigers. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all